Hey guys, this is Rurouni K95 here. I would like, if I may, to take you on a strange journey. Happy 46th anniversary to this movie that came out on this day, August 15th. And this movie for today, I wanted to do a re-review that I should have done for this video that I haven't done until now, for what I understand as well. Yeah. You know what I mean. So today's re-review is this phenomenal cult classic that came out on this day back in 1975. And this movie has started a cult following, especially and it's none other than the Rocky Horror Picture Show. This movie tells you the story about how Brad Majors and his fiancée Janet Weiss are married at the wedding after the science fiction double feature prologue goes, which leads you to the Damn It Janet sequence, until they were heading back home in the rain on a rainy day until they had a flat tire, until they noticed a light at the place, which is the sequence with Over at the Frankenstein Place played in that one. But we'll tell you about the reference in just a moment as well. So they encounter the handyman at the door that goes by the name Riff Raff, played by Richard O'Brien in this movie. And then we get to see Magenta, played by Patricia Quinn in that movie as well. And this leads you to the time warp scene. You know, that's how things is going well, of how you expect in the Rocky Horror Picture Show as well, from what I want to know. And then we get to see the appearance of Dr. Frank-N-Furter, played by the legendary actor Tim Curry in this movie. Because even though this movie leads you to the sequence as well, because that's how they would have to take advantage if they were in a refuge in the place that you would see if you ever watch the part in the Rocky Horror Picture Show as well, from what I understand as well. And for some reason as well, the I Can Make You a Man sequence in the Rocky Horror Picture Show as well. You know what I mean, is that when he creates the creature creation that goes by the name Rocky in that one, which is and then that's how it wasn't long until Eddie appeared in the Hapatui Bless My Soul sequence, because you know Columbia was going gaga over Eddie, because Eddie was played by the musician Meatloaf in this particular movie, especially for the Hapatui Bless My Soul sequence in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, from what I understand as well. And for the whole reason is that wasn't long until Frank-N-Furter kills Eddie, and this leads you to the reprise sequence in I Can Make You a Man. Yeah, that's how things just go well by, from what I understand as well. As the night goes on a rainy day, and Rocky was running off and see those dogs as well, when Riff Raff was scaring Rocky with the candle stand thing with those candles on there, which causes Rocky to be frightened. Janet Weiss had the love affection with Brad Majors, but turns out things don't go well, because it was actually Frank-N-Furter in disguise of how. And then same goes for Brad Majors. He thought he has the love affection with Janet Weiss, but it doesn't turn out. Again, Frank-N-Furter in disguise on each of those parts of the movie, if you noticed. Because this isn't the last time we get to see the disguise by tricking on them. But we'll come to that later on in this movie as well. And then that leads you to the, what's the name of that sequence? Touch Me sequence. Yeah, I think so. But that wasn't long until Dr. Scott arrived at the place where Riff Raff and appeared in that one. Because, you know, Dr. Scott was in a wheelchair thing as well. Yeah, and he notices as how things just going well by, of how what you noticed in this particular movie. Because you know what I mean by all of how this thing goes by. Other than the previous sequences, which I mentioned earlier, that what you see in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, from what because you get the picture from what I understand of how the sequences goes in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, especially till the dinner scene, especially because they were talking about Eddie, about how Eddie was killed in that one. And then, you know, Columbia storms off screaming and crying because, you know, Eddie has been killed. And that's how that leads you to the sequence of Eddie left his Teddy sequence of how they described the character Eddie, and that's how it wasn't long until, you know, Dr. Frankenfurter has pulled off the tablecloth on the table, but it was actually a dead carcass of Eddie in that coffin you noticed in this movie. Which we will get to know about how it was almost not in a good way, but it just goes on not very obnoxiously, or almost, I would say, from how. And this leads you to the "You Better Wise Up" sequence, and that's how they use the. And then they were all accusing Frankenfurter as how things goes, and then Magenta uses the switch on the wall thing, like up and down thing, and it says Medusa, and it turns them into like white statues, especially on Dr. Scott, Janet, Brad and Janet especially, and also same with Columbia as well, which I believe. Oh yes, and also Rocky also as well. All five were all being turned into like white statues, which they were getting ready. That how it wasn't long until they were getting ready with the floor show sequence, especially with the sequences of these types of medley of how the songs transitions. You know, like Rose Tint in My World, and the Don't Dream It Be It sequence, and the Wild and Untamed theme. The Wild and Untamed Thing sequence. But that wasn't long until, you know, Magenta and Riff Raff appeared about how they want to get back to transsexual Transylvania in that scene. And that's how it was before the I'm Going Home sequence of how what Frankenfurter has a lot to do for that part in this particular musical type sequence as well. But that wasn't long until Riff Raff and Magenta has killed first Columbia, and then they killed Frankenfurter afterward. They killed Columbia as well. But then, which causes Rocky to go ballistic, and he grabs the dead body of Frankenfurter when he was climbing on that RKO radio signal thing, but then falls into a pool of water. Remember, that's how they were remembering things of how they were doing the time warp of how things just go well, as how if you notice how. But that wasn't long until Brad and Janet and Dr. Scott came out of the place, until the whole place went up into outer space, which leads them to transsexual, back to the planet transsexual Transylvania, of how this goes. And that's how you end this movie, of how, where the insects, they were crawling on the planet, of how the human race goes, of how the narrator tells of how it goes. And that's how you end this movie. And that is my summary plot of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. What do I think of it? Well, it was an outstanding movie. I mean, this movie only plays like at a midnight theater. And there's also like some deleted scenes on here, like superheroes sequence. I think that's only in the UK version of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Especially the, you know what I mean, the superhero sequence is how it transitions after the Riff Raff and Magenta's place went up into outer space when they were heading back to the planet transsexual Transylvania. You guessed it as well. I mean, what is it with deleted scenes that were also only appeared only in the UK version? Well, that is the question, though, because I can answer to that as well. Well, this movie did have a cult following as well, because, you know, especially when people wanted to go see this movie at a midnight, at a theater, especially at midnight, which has made the movie popular, as how if you ever go see this movie at a midnight theater as well, like especially if they dress up as their favorite characters from the Rocky Horror Picture Show as well, just how before a cult movie has started to become a thing as well, has done pretty well as well, especially for the movie like the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I understand as well. If you, the music was alright, because I could hear it's like rock music and all, and the elements of horror comedy, and some science fiction elements of how this one, you know, like science fiction double feature sequence. It shows like the lips at the beginning of the movie, and it mentions the movies like Day the Earth Stood Still, Flash Gordon, The Invincible Man, King Kong, It Came from Outer Space, Dr. X, Worlds Collide, Forbidden Planet, you name those movies. I mean, if you watch the science fiction double feature sequence, which is, I think that's only in the beginning of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, from what I understand as well. If you haven't seen this movie, get it. I highly recommend. I hope we can get it on DVD, because this movie has got a cult following, because it's become a cult classic. If you ever love musical movies, or if you like movies that have a cult following in general, I'm just going to say movies that have a cult following as well. So that's going to be it for, and also a score rating is 10 out of 10 as well. So that's going to be it for my re-review on the movie The Rocky Horror Picture Show for today. Thank you for watching, but before we go, here's what I'm going to say for this. It's been a while since I had to rewatch the Rocky Horror Picture Show on the Blu-ray that I borrowed from the library, because I wanted to do this as a rewatch, because I think I've watched both versions, the US version and the UK version as well, so I could do a re-review for this, which I haven't done until now. Hope subscribe for content, my Anime Planet link in the description below. You can share this video on your Twitter, Facebook, if you have Twitter and Facebook account, on all of social media. Smack the like button if you enjoyed this video. Feel free to leave in the comments in the comment section below on this video. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, RuRoniK95. Feel free to join the channel, especially if you're new to my channel. Smack the notifications bell button, and that's all I got to say. This is RuRoniK95 saying thank you for watching my video. Glad you liked it. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope to see you soon for the next video. Hope you have a great day. This is RuRoniK95 signing off. Thank you for watching my video, and I will see you soon for more videos. And stay tuned for my re-review on Mortal Kombat.